Hi, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. People, if you turn on the news today, this is a very difficult time um, in this country. It's a difficult time in this world, but in this country, if you look at the headlines, we have Americans trapped behind enemy lines in Afghanistan, and the stories coming out from there are horrendous of torture and all of the depressing things that go along with this. Families being separated from one another, and the terror of Americans who have no idea whether or not they're going to get home, and the terror of the people who assisted us, throughout this 20-year war, who are going to be left to the devices of the Taliban once we leave. This is tough. Throw on top of that the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic that nobody on this planet has ever endured anything like, because the last one was so long ago that this is all fresh territory for everybody, whether you're a drug addict or not, or whether you're addicted to anything or not. This is all fresh territory. Now we have flooding in New York. You see the film out of New York, and it's underwater. The Gulf Coast is getting pounded. We got another storm waiting to hit. People, the headlines are absolutely terrifying. And this is something that's difficult for anyone in the world today to cope with. Coping skills are hard for everybody. Whether or not you suffer from an addiction or have overcome an addiction, this is a very difficult thing. But it is going to be more difficult for the addict for a couple of reasons. Number one, everyone in the community of rehabilitation and drug treatment will tell you that the day that you started becoming a daily drug user is the day that your EQ basically pulled the emergency brake. You all know what an IQ is, right? Your intelligence quotient. Well, they have something called EQ, and it is your emotional quotient. So if you started smoking pot every day when you were 14, and pot translated into benzodiazepines and then some experimentation with cocaine, and all the way down the line until you found whatever your drug of choice was, and you stayed on that for an extended period of time until you got sober, the reality is your emotional development is probably somewhere in the teens. That's me, and that's something that that I've had to grapple with over the course of the last 6 years, and it's something that everybody on the boat who is fighting an addiction is going to have to deal with as well. The chemicals stopped your emotional development. So if you've just recently gotten sober, then you have all of this to deal with as you're developing your new emotional quotient, as you're getting your emotions and your ability to cope under control. The fact that all of these things are going on in the world makes it a lot more difficult. I think everybody could agree with that. The fact of the matter is that one of the reasons that studies say your EQ stops, your emotional development stops, is because think about the human being in a normal situation. There's a death in the family. There's a divorce, a breakup, any of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The normal human goes through a period of time where they feel depressed, then they go through a period of acceptance, and then they go through, there's a mourning period. There's all of these different things that are very normal as part of the process that goes on in everybody's life. We didn't do that. Plain and simple, we just avoided it. So there's a breakup. Drink that stuff away. There's a death in the family. Snort that away. Inject, whatever your drug of choice was. And make no mistake, it doesn't have to be drug, right? Gambling addicts gamble for the same reason that drug addicts do drugs. It is, they get a rush of not only feel-good chemicals, but adrenaline. You get that excitement that, as you're waiting to see whether or not the next card is going to be a bust or it's going to make your hand, that is the same thing. Someone with an eating disorder is going to go during all of these tough times, they're going to go to food. And they're going to eat because the brain is going to release that comfort chemical. And this is one of the reasons when you hear the term comfort food, this is the real deal, folks. That's not just an expression. I mean, there are comfort foods, and it doesn't much matter what they are, truthfully, because for some people a comfort food could be bacon. For someone else it could be bread. It doesn't matter. You understand what I'm saying? It's the fact that it provides sanctuary during these tough times. So right now, with everything going on in the world, we are very susceptible to the depression that everyone across this country and across this world is feeling because of everything going on. All of these things that we've never dealt with, especially all at the same time. We, unfortunately, in many cases, are dealing with this without the right equipment. So the question becomes, what do you do? And the short answer is that there's no magic bullet, because every single person has hit the emergency brake at a different phase of development. So if you're, you might have been a very mature 16-year-old who had really the emotional development of something closer to 25, whereas somebody could be 25 and have had the emotional development of somebody 16. There's really no way to quantify any of this stuff. What you can do, however, is come to the realization that we need a different set of coping skills than normal people. And there is a reason, folks, that the group therapy model is so popular. And there is a reason that in 30 days we have built a boat the size of the one that we're on. The reason is the support of one another really, truthfully and honestly, can become sort of the stopgap in for those of us who are developmentally challenged in terms of our emotions. So one of the things that you're going to notice as you become sober is you'll watch a Hallmark card commercial and tears start welling up in your eyes, or you watch a romantic comedy, a silly rom-com, something like 50 First Dates, and find yourself really emotionally feeling it. The reason is your brain is now starting to deal with emotions in a way that it has never dealt before. You're going to start being affected by things in a much different way. You hear people say all the time that, and it's almost become a cliche, that the most caring people you'll ever meet in your life are addicts. I believe that there's some truth to that, but the reality is we seem to be far more affected by things because you're looking at someone who is developmentally far younger than they are in their actual age. And I'm not saying this is necessarily such a horrendous thing. What it helps avoid is the jaded emotional development that you find in a lot of people who have lived a life of sobriety. You run into a lot of people in their 50s who never got addicted to drugs, never did anything like that. And they have learned their defense mechanisms, right? And they didn't have drugs. So very oftentimes what they did when the going got hard, they internalized all this. And what you get are individuals who, they become very much like Spock, right? You get those people who just seem so emotionally detached. It's become their defense mechanism. Instead of letting their emotions show, they bottle everything up and they put it inside. And these are the people that you see who are susceptible to heart attacks in their 40s and 50s, because it is just an unhealthy thing to bottle stuff up the way that they do. Not that addicts didn't bottle stuff up, but the way we did it, we used a salve, we used a balm to smooth over the things that were so difficult for us. So now that that's gone, we get to start from scratch. The good thing is, intellectually, we are intellectually developed enough to where we don't have the intellect of a 14-year-old. We'd be in serious trouble. We can sit back and say, okay, I need these skills. I need to develop a set of coping mechanisms. Until they start clicking for you, the group really can become the backbone of the support that you need that normally people can do internally. There's a reason why people say, I need a meeting. It's not necessarily that, boy, I really feel like I need a drink. More often than not, it's the things going on in my life are so difficult right now that I can't cope. It doesn't necessarily mean you need a drink or you need a drug or you need whatever. What they mean is, I don't have the skills to get through this. And the crazy thing is that by sharing this with a group of like-minded people, it seems to make the problems go away. And that may sound funny, but it is exactly what happens when you go to a therapist. For anybody listening to the sound of my voice who has been to therapists, and I have been to a grip of different therapists over the course of my life, especially since becoming incarcerated. They need to justify their existence in the federal government, so you get a lot of different doctors and psychologists, psychiatrists all along the way to sit down and do therapy. And the truth of the matter is, anyone who's done this can back me up. What they'll say is, so Tommy, tell me what's going on. And then they will sit back and let you speak. And their one skill is to draw out you talking. They're not telling you any kind of, any kind of magic bullet to help you get through things. What they're doing is drawing things out of you that chances are your mate can't or won't, or your best friends can't or won't. We feel as humans that it shows weakness if we talk to our friends and say, man, I'm hurting. Because of that, we need to go to a perfect stranger and do it, which is why the therapy industry is billions of dollars in this country. The beautiful thing, folks, is we have the boat. If you read the comment section, just scroll through the comment section. If you just leave a comment and disappear, you're missing out, because you're going to read comments that are answering questions you have in your life. You're going to read comments that show you insight. And you know the proof of this, people? The proof is I have spent the last 7 or 8 years, especially the last 6, doing nothing but reading about everything I'm talking about. And every single day, I learn something in the comment section from someone with no training, someone with who hasn't spent the last 6 years reading every self-help book ever written. The reason is everyone has a specific skill, or everyone has an insight that is unique to them, but it's going to flip a switch in your brain. For so many of us, someone says something and I go, oh man, I can't believe this, right? How did I not think of this? Or how did this not occur to me? People, the greatest support group you're ever going to come across is right here. It's in your phone. It's in your laptop, right? It's in your tablet. You've got the boat. And I'm not talking about me, people. For real, what I'm talking about is the comment section. I'm talking about a group of people who are here to be your support network, to be your support family, while you're developing the emotional tools that you're going to need to survive as an adult who doesn't do drugs or have a habit ruling their life. There's a group of people here who have what? They've done what? They've been in the same boat, right? They have stood at that forest I talked about the other day, that forest of despair where you feel like you're never going to be able to get out. I had a great interaction with a person in the comment section where they talked about how their therapy derailed when people basically tried to force them into it and shove it down their throat. And we talked a little bit about the standard model, and we were both bashing on it nicely, but we were bashing on it. And the question was asked of me, well, why do you think that they're bad at this? They're bad at it because they learned it out of a textbook. Plain and simple. You can read all about what it feels like to desire something so badly that you're willing to steal for it. You can read about what an opiate can do to a person to drive them to the point where they'll walk into a bank and tell them you want all the money. I promise you, people, from experience, standing at the front door of a bank and holding the door handle to pull it open and walk in there and rob it means that you are so far off the rails. And it's that desire for a substance. You can read about that until you're blue in the face. You can know everything there is to know. You can know that diacetylmorphine has one more molecule than morphine, which allows it to pass the blood-brain barrier so that it hits you so much faster than morphine would, right? The heroin buzz is so much quicker into the body, and you can know all of the different stuff that you need to know. You can know that methamphetamine, when synthesized, adds one more. None of that means anything, right? If you understand what it means to want that, if you can go, I've been there. People, when people come back from war and they go and they see counselors, the first thing the counselors do is get them in a room full of other people who have been to war, right? It makes perfect sense. If you see people who come back from war and watch them get together, one of the things that happens immediately is they'll come up and go, where were you? Where did you serve? Well, I was in Fallujah. Oof, I heard it was bad. Where were you? I was down in Kandahar. And the banter starts. Okay, when I meet somebody who has been to federal prison and they go, where were you? And I go, I was in Victorville. They go, oh, Victimville. Good Lord, man, that's bad. What years were you there? And I tell them, were you there when the warden got stabbed? Like, it's the exact same thing, right? We were people who went to war. The difference is we're hated. And the people who served our country, rightly so, are loved, and if you did serve our country, I don't do this often enough, but my Lord, thank you. And if your children today are serving, or anybody, any of your loved ones, our thoughts and prayers are with them. We pray that they come home safe, for real. But it's the same thing with drugs. You get these people together and there's instantly a camaraderie there that can't be explained to to people outside of our circle. The reason that this is taking off the way it is because we've been there. We've all stood in that area, and we know exactly what it means to be able to get out of it. So the question becomes an obvious question. We have a ton of people here who aren't drug addicts. Why are they here? The reason is twofold, in my opinion. Number one, there is again, because of how the different phases of how all of our emotional development either stopped or was halted for a period of time, everyone in life has dealt with that in some level. So whether it's drugs, whether it's overeating, whether it's any of the things, they mimic the addictive pattern of drug addicts so closely that everyone gets sort of a benefit out of this. The second thing is, try to go anywhere in the world where you're going to find people who will say, I'll support you simply because you need support. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? For those of you who have YouTube channels, you know that you can go to sites and they tell you about your channel, and then they will say, here's a list of similar channels. Do you know what I get when I touch that button? Comedians. I'm not kidding, because there's just nothing like this, people. And the reason is, there's nobody that's just going to get together and go, hey, if you need any help, I understand. The drug addict understands that, right? In a way that no one else does. We're the sole group on the planet that says, I need help, and I'll help you. Alcoholics and drug addicts are willing to help anybody because they know what it meant to need help. So people, as we're coping with all of the things going on in the world today, and they're tough, run back to the boat. Not because I want to get 15 million views, but because this works. The dream is working. Go to the comment section. If you think I'm just doing this to pump stuff up, read 2 comment sections. Pick any 2 of the videos and read the comment sections and watch people helping one another. Last night I was reading, and there was a subject that I'm not going to bring up here, but it was deep, and it was beyond me. I'm not smart enough. This is not something that I've experienced, and I'm woefully ignorant on this subject. And it's not something that I can imagine because it's a very tough subject. But as I'm reading it, and I thought, oh man, and I'm late getting to this. I just felt so bad. And then when I clicked on it, there was a response from another woman there that just was beautiful. And it was someone that had been there and done that. And as bad as it is, and I couldn't imagine it, they could. It's the proof of exactly what we're doing here. So people, come back to the boat, right? Come back on here. If you can't find the captain, anybody on this boat will help you. It's why we're the boat. It's why it's magic. It's why what we're doing is so unique and so awesome. So as we're gripping with the tough things day to day going on in this country, you know where to go. Right? Come on back to the boat. For those of you who have said, hey, we want some t-shirts, and a bunch of people have emailed that, hey, I'm working on it. I promise. We're going to have, there are going to be some t-shirts coming out here shortly. I'm doing some designs right now. People, I didn't know we were a boat until a week ago, right? So I promise you we're, and I didn't know the name of it until 3 or 4 days ago, but there are some shirts in the making for the boat. And look, you got any suggestions? Throw them up. Absolutely. James J's had some beautiful ones. JJ, on fire. Great ideas. So feel free to throw any of those up. People, I think I might have done this better this time. Somewhere down here, you're going to see the old Tommy Scoville Show emblem. That'll be going away soon in lieu of a boat. But you can click on it, and you will get to join the boat. You can tap into the greatest support network anywhere on the planet. Sorry, it's the truth. Down here are some videos. Some of them are really poignant. People, there's a lot of great stuff there. You're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna find nuggets that are gonna touch you. And if you keep searching, you'll watch me eat the most disgusting fish on the planet and vomit a few times. And who doesn't love that? I am Captain Tommy Scoville. This, people, this is the lifeboat. I will see you tomorrow morning, right before I go to work. God bless.